My wife is someone in my class as my best friend, and we have been together for 20 years. We have done everything together, and normally we tell each other the first thing about any new news. She recently started to develop a few breast symptoms that are concerning, and we went to the GP who referred us to a cancer clinic. We were very scared, and I went with her for the whole thing, taking time off work. We were told they did see a small lump on a scan, but it was probably nothing and took a biopsy. We would be told in a few weeks what the results were and told not to worry. It's been 6 weeks, and I thought we hadn't heard anything, which had been playing on my mind. I had made a few passing comments, and my wife had just shrugged. Last week, I sat her down and explained we should raise it with the hospital and complain as it wasn't fair how long we were waiting. My wife uncharacteristically started arguing with me and ended up shouting that she already knew the results. She had been asked to come in and took one of her friends with her 3 weeks ago. They had told her she had localized cancer and they were planning chemo and surgery. It would mean we would need to speak and go through egg storage for fertility, and she was worried she would upset me, causing me to leave. I'm obviously devastated and scared about my wife. She's my best friend and I don't want to lose her. I don't care about anything else. I just want to be there for her, even if it means not having children. I'm just hurt and worried that she felt she couldn't tell me or involve me. It hurts to know she has been dealing with it on her own, and I couldn't support her. I will not or ever leave her no matter what, and I know she needs my support right now. However, I have found I have stopped talking about what is going on in my life or my stresses and just closing down any conversations about my day, etc. My wife has accused me of planning to leave or cheating and says I am being an oversensitive jerk. So am I the idiot? Update. So I took a long time and read all the comments. I do feel much more of a jerk than a lot gave me credit for, and I had been quite selfish. My wife was scared of telling me, thinking I would react badly, and I did exactly that. Clearly, she knows me much better than I do. We spoke about it the night after I posted, and I discussed what her fears were about the whole process. I spent a large amount of time listening and tried my best not to talk about my fears or thoughts until I had fully understood how she felt. She had become worried that I was dependent on her, and with my past history of my sister dying of the same disease she now had, she was worried about how I would cope. We had a really nice conversation, and I apologized for becoming more distant. I explained that I did know about the stats of men leaving and how I never would be one of them. I explained I had arranged therapy and wanted to be far better than I was. I explained I would offer to be there for every session, but if she wanted to take a friend like she did before, she could do. She suddenly stopped talking and started crying at this, which I couldn't understand. She started talking and explaining. She didn't go with a friend, she went with another man, someone she had been seeing for 18 months. When he found out, he ran for the hills and she was heartbroken. She was worried she would lose me too. She apologized for hours. We've agreed to stay together and have booked in counseling together, and she will see someone else separately. I feel empty, but she can't do treatment alone. That argument can come another day. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. While I totally understand your hurt and feeling of betrayal when your wife told her friend first, please understand that many women are left by their husbands/partners due to cancer. This is so common that there is actually psychological sessions early on in cancer treatment on how to cope. It might be that your wife, in her own panic due to having a life-threatening disease, misheard something that was said to her indicating that she might have marital trouble because of her cancer. Maybe she wanted to check her other support system first. This is in no way intended to say that you will or plan to leave your wife, but the statistics, especially for breast or cervical cancer in women, show increased divorce rates. Comment 2. No idiots here. It's all right for you to feel hurt, but also you need to take a long look at yourself and your relationship and figure out why she had those fears. The fact that you chose what is, at heart, an hurtful silent treatment kind of response to this signals to me pretty clearly that you don't handle things well. Also consider the fact that with breast cancer, she might have found the support of a female absolutely crucial because there are a lot of emotions and fears about a woman's body that men just can't understand, no matter how much they love and support someone. It is also a fact that men often leave when women get sick. So she likely has a lot of fears right now, and instead of trying to figure out how to help, you've chosen to give life to them. Talk to her about your fears and hurt, and let her know you will be there for her. If you don't, then this becomes an "you're the idiot for sure." Now for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for reading my update. It's been a month since I found out about my wife's cancer diagnosis and her affair, and a lot has happened since then. After our initial conversation, my wife and I decided to attend couples counseling together. During our first session, the therapist encouraged us to open up about our feelings and fears. As we delved deeper, my wife revealed that her affair had started long before her cancer diagnosis. She confessed that she had been feeling neglected and unappreciated in our marriage for years, and the other man had made her feel desired and valued. This revelation hit me like a ton of bricks. I had been so focused on my own fears and insecurities that I had failed to notice my wife's unhappiness. I realized that I had taken her for granted and had not been the supportive partner she needed. As we continued with therapy, we began to unpack the issues that had led to the breakdown of our marriage. We talked about how we had grown apart over the years, how we had stopped communicating effectively, and how we had both been guilty of neglecting each other's needs. Through these conversations, I began to understand my wife's perspective better. I realized that my tendency to shut down emotionally and avoid difficult conversations had contributed to her feeling isolated and alone. I also recognized that my fear of losing her had caused me to become overly dependent on her, which had put a lot of pressure on our relationship. As we worked through these issues, we also had to navigate the challenges of my wife's cancer treatment. She began chemotherapy, which took a toll on her physically and emotionally. I tried my best to be there for her, attending every appointment and offering my support, but it was a difficult and exhausting process for both of us. One particularly challenging moment came when my wife had a severe reaction to the chemotherapy drugs. She was hospitalized for several days, and I was terrified that I might lose her. As I sat by her bedside, holding her hand and praying for her recovery, I realized just how much I loved her and how much I wanted to fight for our marriage. When my wife was released from the hospital, we had a long and emotional conversation. We both acknowledged that we had made mistakes in our marriage and that we needed to work harder to rebuild our relationship. We agreed to continue with therapy and to make a conscious effort to prioritize each other's needs and feelings. As we worked on our marriage, we also had to confront the issue of my wife's affair. Although I had initially agreed to stay with her during her treatment, I still felt betrayed and hurt by her actions. We had several difficult conversations about trust and forgiveness, and there were times when I wasn't sure if I could move past the pain. However, as we continued to work through our issues in therapy, I began to see the affair in a different light. I realized that it was a symptom of the deeper problems in our marriage, and that we both needed to take responsibility for our role in those problems. I also recognized that holding on to anger and resentment would only harm our relationship further. Slowly but surely, we began to rebuild our trust and intimacy. We started spending more quality time together, going on dates and taking walks in the park. We also made a point of checking in with each other regularly and being more open and honest about our feelings. As my wife's treatment progressed, we received some good news. The chemotherapy had been effective, and the cancer had not spread beyond the initial site. Although she would still need surgery and radiation, the prognosis was much better than we had initially feared. This news brought us even closer together. We celebrated each small victory and leaned on each other during the difficult moments. We also began to talk more openly about our hopes and dreams for the future, including the possibility of starting a family through adoption or surrogacy. Looking back on the past month, I realize how much my wife and I have grown and changed. We have faced some of the biggest challenges of our lives, both individually and as a couple, and we have emerged stronger and more committed to each other than ever before. Although the road ahead is still uncertain, I know that we will face it together, one day at a time, and for that, I am grateful. Thanks for reading. Am I the idiot for telling my boyfriend's family they can't criticize our cat and then questioning if I can trust them with our future kids? My boyfriend Sam, 27-year-old male, and I, 25-year-old female, have entered a stage in our relationship where we think we'll soon want to start a family. One thing I worry about, though, is his family. Mom, Dad, younger brother Matt, and his girlfriend Susan, both 24. For some reason, it feels like they are looking down on Sam. For example, if Matt takes out a small loan to renovate the flat, everyone is supportive. But when we do it, we are questioned about responsibility, even though we are financially better off. I'd understand if Sam and I had a history of being irresponsible, but we are doing really well for ourselves and never had any issues. Sam says he is used to it and it doesn't bother him, but he understands my frustration and is always really supportive and sticks up for me if need be. Recently, we got a cat. She is a lovely, healthy ball of energy, and we immediately bonded with each other. Matt and Susan also adopted a cat not long ago. Again, everyone was excited for them, and we were hit with a pet is a responsibility, right? But whatever, let them talk. Yesterday, we had invited his family. As soon as they entered, they started complaining. Why is the scratching post here and not there? Why are you giving her this food brand? Why are you using this litter? They brought some toys and also some cat food, which they say is 100 times better than the one we use, which I didn't mind, but Susan also brought a supplement paste. I thanked her, but told her to please take it with her again, since I don't want to give my cat supplements that are not approved by her vet, who confirmed she is the picture of health last Friday. At first, she said okay, but when I came back from the toilet, I saw Susan giving our cat the paste. I snatched the paste from her and told her she had crossed a line, and while his family tried to defend her actions because she just wants to help, I said that their help is not appreciated and that I will no longer allow them to question everything we do. I also find it highly concerning that they are okay with going explicitly against what I said and starting immediately. I expect them to keep their unsolicited advice to themselves, and they will have to earn back our trust in respecting our wishes. They said I was too dramatic over a cat, so I said, if I can't even be comfortable around you regarding my cat, I sure as hell won't be comfortable having you around our kids. Before they could answer, Sam asked them to leave. He said our kids in the argument was a low blow since we both know his family would never intentionally harm our kids. He agrees with setting more boundaries, but also asked me to apologize for this sentence specifically. I don't think that sentence makes me an AH, but maybe you guys have some perspective. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Not the jerk. They didn't intentionally mean to harm the cat, but still decided they knew better than you and the vet. God forbid your children have an allergy or medical condition. They would be stomping all over to give them the best treatment. Looks like that in order to feel good about themselves, they have to put Sam down. But it is getting dangerous. Repeat the favor. Take some top-end skin supplements and tell Susan how you've noted her skin needs work, and these will really help. When she has a meltdown, and she will, then ask her how unsolicited help feels. Comment 2. Not the jerk at all. People don't come into someone else's house and start dictating things. Giving advice is okay if well-intended and you know when to stop, but from what you explain, this is out of line. We have 2 dogs and people have to ask if they can offer them something. You're right not to trust them because they seem to know better, more so when you have kids later. Now, for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for reading my last post and for all your support and advice. It's been a crazy couple of weeks since then, and I wanted to give you all an update on what's been happening. So after the whole incident with Susan giving our cat the supplement paste without my permission, things were pretty tense between Sam's family and us. We didn't talk much for a few days, but then Sam's mom reached out and asked if we could all sit down and have a conversation. I was hesitant at first, but Sam convinced me that it was worth a shot. We met up at a neutral location, a little coffee shop near our place. It was awkward at first, but then Sam's dad started talking about how they've always had a hard time letting go and trusting Sam to make his own decisions. He admitted that they've been overprotective and maybe even a bit condescending at times, but it was only because they loved him so much and wanted the best for him. I could see that it was hard for them to open up like that, and I appreciated their honesty. I apologized for my comment about not trusting them with our future kids, and they apologized for overstepping boundaries with our cat. We had a really good talk, and I feel like we all understand each other a bit better now. Sam's mom even suggested that we start a new tradition of having family dinners once a month, where we can all catch up and bond in a more relaxed setting. But just when things were starting to look up, we hit a major roadblock. Sam's company announced that they were going through some restructuring, and there was a chance that he could lose his job. We were both really worried, especially since we had just taken out that loan to renovate our place. For a few days, we were both on edge, trying to come up with a backup plan in case the worst happened. But then something amazing happened. Sam's boss called him into his office and told him that not only was he keeping his job, but he was also getting a promotion and a raise. We were both so relieved and excited. It felt like a huge weight had been lifted off our shoulders. And the timing couldn't have been better because it turns out that I'm pregnant. We found out a few days ago, and we're both over the moon. We haven't told anyone yet, not even our families, because we want to wait until I'm a bit further along. But it feels like everything is falling into place, and I'm so grateful for all the love and support we have in our lives. Looking back, I realized that a lot of the tension between us and Sam's family was because of my own insecurities. I've always been a bit of a perfectionist, and I think I was projecting my own fears and doubts onto them. But through all of this, I've learned that it's okay to ask for help and to lean on the people who love us. I know that there will be more challenges ahead, but I feel like Sam and I are stronger than ever, and we're ready to face whatever comes our way. And who knows, maybe by this time next year, we'll be introducing our little one to the world. Anyway, that's all for now. Thanks again for all your support and advice. It means the world to us. Am I the idiot for ignoring my husband's wish to name our baby after his late sister and announcing a different name to my family? My wife and I have been married for just under 4 years, and she is almost 8 months pregnant with our first child. Originally, we had decided not to find out the intimacy of the baby, so we wanted both a boy and a girl name. However, my wife became frustrated when I didn't agree to solely use her top choices for names, Peter for a boy and Susan for a girl, and when I suggested using the name Everly after my late sister's middle name. So she looked at the intimacy of the baby and found out we were having a boy, and she decided to only focus on boy names. She then gave me a list of her top 10 boy names, and I could choose one from there since I wanted to be involved. I have to admit, I was angry about this. When we were dating, she would often complain about how her sister's husband never cared about the names of their children and had no input at all. She would criticize him for being lazy and lacking as a father. Back then, I promised her that I would always want to play a role in naming our children and that we would choose names together. She thought that was perfect and even liked the idea of using Everly in the future to honor my sister. She said she was glad I wasn't like her sister's husband and that she could never marry someone like that or have kids with them. However, now that we're actually in the process of choosing a name for our baby, she has changed her mind. She wants to have complete control over the decision because she's the one carrying our child. She was very angry and told me that my involvement would be limited to choosing from the names she loves the most, nothing else. Her list included the names Peter, Lawrence, Francis, Samson, Vincent, Patrick, Chester, Jeffrey, Stanley, and Caleb. I chose Caleb, but she didn't like that and still wanted Peter. We had not agreed on a name. I told her that I did not want to use the name Peter. However, when we went to her parents' house for a family dinner last week, she announced to her family that we had decided to name our son Peter. I was furious because we had not agreed on that name. Her family was thrilled, and when we had a moment alone, I accused her of being manipulative and trying to force my hand by making me look like the bad guy for refusing. I told her that she clearly didn't mean what she said about wanting a man who would be involved in the decision-making process, and that she should have found someone like her sister's husband instead, since that's what she really wants. In response, she loudly told me that I was being a jerk and that I couldn't change my mind now, resulting in her entire family being angry at me for wanting to change the name. Her sister's husband even mocked me for being a weak man. He said this because everyone else was furious at me, and because I had already taken my wife's name in marriage and was now letting her name our child. This further angered me, and in turn made her more upset with me for being angry. She told me that I had no right to call her manipulative, and since then we have been tense. Am I the jerk? Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Not the jerk, it's your child too, and frankly, unless Peter and Susan are family names, they're wild choices for a baby. Those are the people you call at corporate. That's me being petty, but let's move along. You threw in the last name thing at the end, and that broadened this spectrum of control. She made such a stink about her brother-in-law not giving a shoot about anything. But you've taken her last name, and she's taken full control over finding out the sale and the name of your child. Is control a regular issue in your relationship? If so, parenting together is going to be a wild ride. Comment 2. Not the jerk. Your wife is acting just plain vile. Baby names require the full approval of both parents. Making that announcement in front of the family, so you'd either have to roll with it or look like a complete butt in front of her family, was just despicable. Question: have there been other times she's been manipulative like this or undermined your opinion? Or is this behavior new? If it's the former, then she just sucks. But if it's the latter, I'd be questioning if she's already experiencing a postpartum mental issue, though it could also just be pregnancy hormones and stress. Now for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for reading my last post and for all your support. It's been a week since I shared my story, and a lot has happened since then. After the tense dinner at my in-laws' house, my wife and I barely spoke for a few days. The atmosphere at home was heavy, and we both felt hurt and misunderstood. I tried to initiate a conversation about the baby's name a couple of times, but she shut me down, saying she didn't want to discuss it anymore. However, things took an unexpected turn when my wife had a routine checkup with her obstetrician. During the ultrasound, the doctor noticed that the baby's growth had slowed down, and there were some concerns about the placenta. My wife was told to take it easy and rest as much as possible. The news shook us both, and suddenly the argument about the baby's name seemed trivial. When we got home, my wife broke down in tears. She confessed that she had been feeling overwhelmed and anxious about becoming a mother, and the pressure to choose the perfect name had gotten to her. She apologized for not considering my feelings and for announcing the name without my agreement. I held her as she cried, and I realized that I had been so focused on the name issue that I had failed to see how much stress she was under. We had a long, honest conversation that night. I shared my own fears and insecurities about becoming a father, and we both acknowledged that we needed to communicate better and support each other through this journey. We agreed to put the name discussion on hold until after the baby was born and to focus on ensuring a healthy pregnancy. The following day, my wife called her family to apologize for the way she had handled the situation and to explain that we had not yet decided on a name. Her parents were understanding and offered their support. Even her sister's husband reached out to me and apologized for his comments at the dinner. He admitted that he had been projecting his own insecurities onto me and that he respected my desire to be involved in the decision-making process. As the week went on, my wife and I spent more time together, talking about our hopes and dreams for our family. We reminisced about our early days of dating and how we had always envisioned our future together. I shared stories about my late sister Everly and how much she had meant to me. My wife listened intently and suggested that we could still use Everly as a middle name, regardless of whether we had a boy or a girl. The gesture touched me deeply, and I realized how lucky I was to have such a caring and understanding partner. In the midst of all this, I received a call from my mother. She had heard about the situation from my in-laws and wanted to check in on me. As we talked, she shared a story I had never heard before. Apparently, when my parents were expecting me, they had a similar disagreement about my name. My father had wanted to name me after his grandfather, but my mother had her heart set on a different name. In the end, they compromised and gave me both names. My mother reminded me that marriage is all about compromise, and that the most important thing was the love we had for each other and our child. Her words stuck with me, and I realized that I had been too stubborn in my approach. I decided to sit down with my wife and have an open discussion about the name. We both agreed that we wanted a name that held meaning for both of us, and we spent hours going through family names and their significance. In the end, we settled on a name that we both loved and that honored both of our families. As I reflect on the past week, I realize that this experience has taught me a valuable lesson about the importance of communication and compromise in a relationship. It's easy to get caught up in the heat of the moment and to let our emotions cloud our judgment. But at the end of the day, what matters most is the love and respect we have for each other. Thank you all for reading and for your continued support. I'll keep you updated on our journey as we prepare to welcome our little one into the world. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day!